Are you sitting comfortably? Then we'll begin.
Well, hello there, and welcome to episode 70 of There's Still Time, the AFTN podcast. I'm Michael McCall.
And I'm Steve Pander.
And we're joined by a special guest this evening, head honcho from Curva Collective, Zachary Meisenheimer.
It's always good to be with the head honcho of AFTN.
And it's very apt that it's episode 70 because tonight was Italian Heritage Night here at BC Place, and we're recording this podcast after the game at BC Place. You can probably tell that because you can hear the air conditioning and all the people are cleaning up. It's the ambience that you come to know and love by listening to this podcast. But Italian Heritage Night, episode 70, Paolo Tornaghi, number 70. Do you think you should have got the start tonight just to honour all the Italians that were here?
No, because essentially David Ousted was the only player that showed up in this game and deservedly won the man of the match.
Yeah, Ousted was immense tonight.
Yeah, that was what that corny build-up was for. Terrible game at BC Place. Man of the match by a mile for the Whitecaps, David Ousted. A couple of big saves in the first half. Didn't have a lot to do in the second half. Just kind of watched the ball hit his posts and crossbar. But it was a horrible game.
It was an unfortunate match today at BC Place. Yeah, the players just didn't seem up for it. They didn't seem match fit. It looks like the break really hurt them, and it also looked like they played down to Montreal's level.
Well, I think as well that they were wanting to honour Italian Heritage Night by playing like Italy did against Uruguay.
Yeah, you got a point there, and also I think a little, like you were saying, match fit. I think a little rustiness was in there too.
He did come on as a sub in the second half.
Rusty.
With his sideshow bob hair.
Yeah, exactly. That was an unfortunate. He seems to be really making choices.
I tell you, I haven't seen hair like that since those 70s porn films from Germany. Now, you're German. Actually, your beard kind of looks like some of those things from the 70s porn films. We need to get a vodcast, I think. Or we need to get vodka whilst we're doing the podcast.
I'm kind of feeling that way right now after that game.
Yeah, because Steve, you were working on very few hours of sleep.
Yeah. And
that game almost put you to sleep at times.
You actually nudged me once, I think, during the game. I was like actually nodding off. The first half was horrendous. That was just I think the worst half I've seen them play. I could be mistaken. Maybe an away game was worse, but definitely
I certainly remember some of Martin Rennie's away games.
Oh, I'm not talking
worse than that.
Maybe I should clarify this year under Carl Robinson.
Oh yeah, no, by far. It's like even the poor performances against Chivas in the second game of the season, nothing like that.
Yeah, and it was just like Montreal's missing three of their best players: DeVio, Mapp, Philippe Martins, and they had nothing going forward yet. Montreal was the one pushing the ball forward, possessing the ball more. It seemed like Vancouver wanted to give them the ball and try to do a counterattack and try to use the speed, and that's another thing we should talk about. Everybody was talking about coming into this game. Three guys up front with a lot of speed. It didn't seem like it worked at all.
Yeah, it was interesting. We put up the Steve Taylor made Need for Speed banner tonight, and this is the first time that we've seen Eric play with Darren and Kakuta together. I know that's like an old bet from David Norman Jr. and David Norman Sr. when those guys would actually play together. I think they were talking about that for First Kick last year, and it never happened. It hasn't happened until today. It was frustrating to see that there. It's like the chemistry was not there. The interchange in the play was not really what we had hoped for.
Well, they tried a few different formations at training this week, and that was the one that they were going with a lot. And I watched training on Monday, and watching that, like Eric and Darren, they teamed up really well. They were interchanging a lot. They were doing well, and even at training, Kakuta kind of seemed like the fish out of water, the odd man out, and he just wasn't in the game tonight. I don't think he suits being out in the wing. I don't think Matic suits being out in the left wing either. It's something I'd said in the podcast before. I was wanting to see if he could do that. We've seen it a little bit. He's shown a few glimpses. I just don't think he's cut out for that.
The glimpses, from time to time, it's okay to put him on the wing if you're switching him off, but you can't do it consistently for 90 minutes. One other thing is, I thought Pedro Morales, I thought he had a decent game, but I think he had nobody really to play with. It seemed like Hurtado, Mane, and Maddox weren't really connecting with him as well. He would do well when he was going back with Laba and Kofi, but going forward, it was seemed like nothing was going right, and he wasn't able to connect with them. It changed a little bit when Fernandez came on, and we were hoping that he would come on even sooner because it seemed like the first half was dreadful.
Yeah, I would have pulled Kakuta off at half time, but I think instead he just got an orange and then he came back on for the second half. And
well, he had that shot at the beginning of the second half.
He seemed fired up.
Yeah, but it quickly dissipated.
Yeah, he didn't seem himself tonight, and he hasn't, since Eric started to come through and stolen all the thunder and got all the goals, Kakuta's kind of been on a bit of a downward spiral. I still am not 100% sure that he is a starter.
Yeah, I think that's a really valid question. I think that Kakuta didn't quite contribute tonight the way we thought he would, and I think that I wonder how much of being beaten out by Eric for that starting role has played on his mind. It was sad to see that Eric tonight ended his goal scoring streak, because that was
he
massive.
Didn't even have a sniff really of getting. I mean, the chances that we had. If we look at the stats, and the stats are pretty depressing stuff, because Montreal, who at one point I think we worked out had 7 defenders on the pitch, they had 13 attempts on goal to the Whitecaps 9, and we had our 3 Speed Kings up front. That's just not right.
But of those 13, only 2 were on target. They probably didn't include the post, because they actually hit I think 3 posts during that game.
Well, yeah, because they had 2 attempts on target by the end of the first half.
Yeah.
So then they obviously crashed off the woodwork twice in the second half.
I guess that doesn't count on target, but it's still close chances and everything.
So would you give the woodwork man of the match ahead of Ousted?
I think maybe, because it didn't help us either, because Harvey hit that one off the post as well.
The crossbar.
The Mitchell headed it. That was actually probably our best chance, and the Morales free kick too.
Yeah.
Well, talking about Mitchell, Nahurio Coker called Kyle Robinson. Kyle said he got a phone call at 3:45 this morning. He said that was the 3rd call. He thought he'd eventually answer it, and it was Nigel asking for permission if he could go to his pregnant wife. So Kyle said he could, and then he said he spent up until 5:30 working out who was going to play right back, and eventually settled for Mitch. And I thought he had a not bad game, but you saw at times you missed him actually tearing up the wing. There's a few breaks where maybe Morales was going forward, and you said that he didn't have a lot of support, and he didn't. The midfield was missing. There was just nothing there. And Kakuta and Darren are not guys that can do what I would describe as the grunt work in the midfield. So he didn't have that support. So he needed somebody going up that right wing. And there's a couple of times he looked for the run and Carlisle wasn't making the run. There's a couple of times Carlisle was going to make the run, and he kind of gave a glance at the bench, and I think someone probably told him, no, just don't go any further forward, and then he just stopped and went back. So we do miss that. But he came and he did not bad. Training all this week, the centre-back pairing was going to be Andy and Carlisle. That's what it was going to be. It wasn't going to be Johnny at the back. So then Carlisle's kind of now gone out wide. Do you feel Liveron did enough tonight to stake that place instead of Demerit?
I don't think we're worried about Demerit at all, because I think he's not coming back for still a little while. I think Johnny did decently. He wasn't spectacular or anything like that, but he definitely was much better than the Philadelphia game. And we were talking about before the game, obviously they didn't have time to prepare for this, but a 3-man back, a 3-5-2 might have worked too, putting Rusty on the right side.
I meant to actually ask Kyle that after the game. Did he consider a 3-5-2 at any point? But then they hadn't worked with it. That was the thing. They'd gone for the 4-2-3-1 all week in training. He had tried a couple of different scenarios, some of the speedsters, some of the more attacking players that were good at crossing the ball. And I kind of think if you had the two Uruguayans instead of Darren and Kikuta, I think that would have worked quite well tonight.
Oh, at least one of them, right?
Yeah.
I was going
to say, before we go into that, let's just actually hear a little bit of what Carroll had to say about that, and just some other stuff from Carroll from the after-match press conference, and then we'll get back to talking about the game. So here's Carroll Robinson post-game.
Well, it wasn't very enjoyable watching it, was it? I didn't enjoy watching it, and I think the players didn't enjoy playing in it. So, bad day at the office, I think we call it. We take a point, against a team that I think we're happy for a point. They could have won it. I think we could have won it, and then maybe the second half. But performance levels weren't to the standard that we've played already this year. But I'll give them one.
Considering where they are in the standings, don't you see it as 2 points lost though?
Yeah, of course it is. Of course it is. We're going to have to make up 2 points somewhere along the line, and we go to Colorado on Saturday. Tough place to go. Western Conference team, so we'll go there and try and win, because if we win and we pick up 4 points out of 2 games, then it's not a positive points total. So yeah, it is 2 points lost, but they've gone now. I can't get them back, unfortunately, but we'll have to try and make up them somewhere. I think we were not lazy in our play, but we were not playing at with an urgency and a tempo that we have done. But like I said, I'll give them one.
Carl, you thought practice was good last week and intense.
Yeah.
Did you have some sense, based on what happened this week, that maybe something like this was in the offing, or did it surprise you?
Nah, listen, going on the performance in training last week, and they were excellent. Maybe I should have given them 2 weeks off, and I would have got a good reaction this week. But no, giving players time off is always a difficult time, because whoever wins, it's the right thing to do, and whoever loses, it's the wrong thing to do. So it was the right time for us mentally. I think we needed a break. Physically, obviously, towards the end, we're getting cramp again. So some of the guys who haven't played the majority of minutes, Carlisle, who was excellent tonight. But we'll review it, we'll analyse it. The performance can be better, of course it can. But they're not going to come here and lie over, and they didn't. They thoroughly come and probably got something that they deserved.
You went with the 3 speedsters up front.
Yeah.
Didn't quite click. Was that from unfamiliarity or the way that Montreal defended them?
I think they defended great. I really did. He had to make changes. Frankie, he's missing probably his 3 best players. So when players are missing, other players come in and they do very well. And I think the guys defensively from Montreal were excellent. So 3 speedy guys. Obviously had a quiet evening. I think all of them were below the level that they should have been, and I tried to freshen it up and even slightly change the formation, but said we'll get back to work tomorrow. Sometimes you pick your team based on what you think is the right team to win the game. I thought the 3 speedy guys would win us the game today. In hindsight, maybe it would have been better me picking the 3 more technical guys, or 2 of the more technical guys, and bringing the speedy guys on towards the end. But like I said, I can't take that back. But I'm sure when we draw 0-0, so maybe someone will say we need a centre forward now, which is great.
Are you likely to have Beta back?
Yes. I spoke to Better, and hopefully he's going to meet us there, which is a good sign. Yeah, Nigel called me last night, this morning at 3:45 in the morning. For some reason I had my phone on, which was my wife wasn't too happy about. But 3:45, the 3rd call I answered, and he asked me if he could go back, because obviously his wife is about to give birth. So couldn't say no, and I think it's he wanted to go back. It's the right thing to do, and I wanted him to be there when obviously he becomes a father. So he come. I didn't sleep till 5:30. Who was I going to play right back? And I changed my mind 5 times. The reality is, Ethan Sampson's injured, Better's away. Nigel, who stood in admirably, has been fantastic, is away. So it was like putting a square peg in a round hole. And I toyed with the idea of putting Jordan there and Russell there and Mehdi there, and eventually I'll come up with Mitch. But it was credit to him today. I thought he was excellent. He's a centre back. He's very athletic, but he was fantastic today. A very positive performance by him in an unfamiliar position.
Well, Carroll there saying he doesn't want to watch the game again. Hey, let's just not talk about it. No, I guess we better. We've got air to fill. Now, Zach, you were saying that you guys were talking about it in the stands, just like the strange decision about not going for 3 at the back. And who would you have liked to have seen, like the way that Carroll said he knew how Montreal were going to play, and in hindsight he should maybe have gone for the more technical players. Do you feel that would have been maybe the right move? Hindsight's a great thing. I was excited to see the 3 speedsters, but now looking back, I think it would maybe have been better if we had at least one more technical player out there.
Yeah, I think you need to try we needed to try those three together at some point. And today, it felt like this could be a good day with Montreal's kind of not super quick back line. I thought we could expose them far more than we did. But yeah, we were talking about, could we have tried three at the back? And like, you think about this game with Montreal, especially as the week developed and you began to hear about who's not coming and that kind of stuff. And just the fact that, Demerit's out, and is this an opportunity for us to try, three at the back with Andy in the middle and Johnny on the left and Mitch on the right. And especially with Beta being away, like it kind of looked like a perfect opportunity to try that. And so it was a little puzzling, especially when you knew Montreal was going to be so defensive coming here.
Well, yeah, I mean, as soon as you knew that DeVio hadn't made the trip, which that's just a kick in the teeth to all his Italian heritage people that were here tonight.
Totally.
But I mean, he is kind of past his best.
Nice pun there. So how about some other guys? I think one of the guys I thought did well in the midfield was Gersh. I thought he was strong on the ball. But obviously, one thing we have to look at when it comes to the Colorado game, looking forward a little bit, is will he be able to be available? That late elbow he threw, is that going to be a retroactive punishment on that? He got a yellow for it.
Yeah.
When I saw the elbow, I thought red for sure.
Like you thought red right away. I couldn't see what colour the card that the referee was holding up. It was like really impossible to see. And then when I watched the replay, I thought, oh yeah, he's off. I do have a sneaking feeling that they're going to look at it and he's going to be missing from Saturday. He might not have actually played Saturday anyway, because I think Carroll said at training that he's planning to use pretty much his whole squad over this month in the stretch of games. So we might actually have seen Tybert coming in and partnering Laba on Saturday anyway, and give Gersh a rest. But I thought Gersh was one of the few players that maybe got pass marks tonight.
Other than Elstead, yeah, one of the few, definitely. One other thing we can, as you heard in the press conference, you asked yourself, Carl Robinson, is Stephen Bettishore going to be available for Saturday? And he seemed optimistic about that. What do you guys think about the travel from Brazil? He never played in any games, but he trained and everything like that in the temperature. Do you think he'll be effective, or do you think he'll have rustiness too?
Well, he'll be a little bit rusty, but I think he'll be good to go. He's trained non-stop. He's trained in heat. He's trained probably in altitude. Don't know exactly where Iran were based. And Zach is like sporting an Iran top here. I kind of wish we had the video on. He didn't play. He's probably going to fly out. Carl said he's going to join them in Colorado. The players are flying out really late for Colorado. They're not actually flying out from Vancouver until Friday afternoon, because the general feeling is you can't acclimatise in a day or 2 days anyway. So what the hell, just get there as late as you can, be there for as little time as possible. And I don't think it's going to be a disadvantage for Beta, and I think it's going to be better for the Whitecaps him just being in.
Yeah, I think so we'll play the back four there. So yeah, it'll be much needed to have him there, and I think that hopefully this time away, this experience away, with not playing, will have him hungry to get back on the pitch and play.
Not in Luis Suarez hungry, can we?
We'll get to that later.
Oh man.
But before we kind of turn our attention to the Colorado game, last thing I want to ask you guys about tonight against Montreal, are there any positives you can take from tonight apart from we extended our unbeaten run to 8 games?
Even that, like it's frustrating. Like it's 2 lost points, just like Philadelphia. I mean, we're back-to-back games here where we dropped 4 points in these games that felt like they were ours.
As Carol said, he now feels it's 2 points lost. They have to make up 2 points somewhere else now.
Totally, and Colorado has not been kind to us. I think apart from Darren's strike was last year or 2 years ago or whatever. But yeah, it's a difficult place to play, and I don't know if I think we might be fortunate to get 1 point in Colorado.
So we'll come to that in a sec. But Steve, any positives you can take from tonight?
Yeah, other than Elstead, not really. But I wouldn't even put too many negatives on it because, like we said, everybody was coming out of a break. Montreal was playing defensive basically the whole game, except for a couple of movements up front. So let's move on from this game and go to the next one, I guess.
Was it a sellout?
It was a sellout, 21,000.
Wow.
7th consecutive sellout. Just a shame that they kind of served up that entertainment. Yeah, I'm using like air quotes for the entertainment word there.
There weren't very many empty spaces. I guess some of the people obviously can't make it to the games and whatever like that on a Wednesday, but it seemed like it pretty full compared to other games.
It seemed fuller than I thought it was going to be.
Yeah, definitely. At the beginning of the game, it didn't seem like it was going to be like the 15,000 that we had for TFC in midweek.
And of course, as it was Italian Heritage Night, lots of Italian mothers here. They are quite portly, so they probably took up 2 seats.
I'll leave that one alone.
All the Italian women I know are not portly.
You should introduce me to them. So, before we move on from the Montreal Boarfest, we asked some of our listeners on Twitter for their thoughts on the game tonight. I'll read you some of the best because we had a huge response. Way more response than we usually get. AFTN writer and sometimes podcaster Jay Duke, he asked, what does Nico Mosqueda have to do to get in the lineup? Seems like a game he would have been useful in.
Yeah, totally. And his passion and the way he's contributed when he's come on late in games, I think he could have been one of the people that could have come on and given us a spark. Obviously, we were hoping for that with Seba and Omar late. Yeah.
And you think he would have been inspired after watching his national team take a bite out of Italy as well?
Did you guys see his video?
Yeah, no, I didn't see it.
The video where he's out the window at the house, like waving shirt around, going mental. Yeah, it was pretty awesome. They were up for it. Seba and Nico today, because of the World Cup. Like we talked about before the game, they were up for this match.
I think we will see both of them against Colorado. I think we were going to see that anyway. I think that was always the plan. And at the end of the day, the Colorado game, which, as I say, we'll come to, that's the bigger game for me anyway, because it's Western Conference rival. We're tied now in points with them. That's a game it's huge. Huge implications.
But the problem is with them playing on Saturday is that Uruguay might be out of the tournament by then, so it might be they might be down a little bit before that game. So it's bad timing on that one.
I know this is going back to the game, but one of the frustrating things was we played badly against the bottom of table team again. Like this is something we've done over and over again, going back to last year and previous years. Like how can we play so bad against teams that are so poor in the standings?
We play to their level basically. We don't. It seems like that maybe they take them for granted, or they don't get up for the game because they think it's going to be a cakewalk or something like that. So it's troubling. Last year I think they were beating the lower teams, but I could be wrong with that.
The Montreal podcast Off the Woodworks, that's with an X, they felt that the best player for the Whitecaps tonight was the Woodwork. I think our good friend there is just actually wanting to plug for his podcast, so follow him at Off the Woodworks. Shoe Thief at Stuck on the Sofa on Twitter, he said, hasn't everyone been screaming about leaking goals? There you go. So he's happy with a clean sheet anyway.
He's German. He's excited for tomorrow's match.
Rudy Schuller from Goal.com at Rudy Schuller, he said, I just shot myself in the head after watching that game and can no longer process thoughts. But top marks on him for being able to type.
Rudy's a talented guy.
Matthew DeCap at Elizant X, he said, Ousted saved the day. Kofi had dangerous runs forward. Others looked like they'd eaten pizza and chugged beer for 2 weeks. I think he possibly had just had a look at Curva Collective. Dave Heinrichs said, boring, lethargic, sluggish.
He's one of our partners.
Some guy at the Tamax, he just says, snooze-faced. Stubbs at J_Stub, Kofi should have had the confidence to take a shot on his big run instead of laying off to Matix. That was disappointing for me because Gersh did so well in that run, got past players. I thought he was going to have a foul at one point. He fought into such a good position. Matix, getting the greedy Matix of old, and went for the shot instead of looking for the better pass as far as I was concerned. TFA at TFA Tweet said, I would love to see Omar and Fernandez get a start with Hurtado. He felt that they both played with urgency when they came on, and again he thought that Ousted saved the day along with the Woodwork. Andy M at Swampo, he wants to know what was up with Pedro tonight. He just felt that his pass completion and challenges were just both poor tonight.
Well, I think that comes to the point where we were talking about that he had nobody to play with, and they weren't really getting into the right spots.
John Ward at Fritz Agrand, he just sums it up perfectly by saying pish.
Can you translate for the rest of us?
Yeah, he's Scottish. That means it was not a very good performance. Kurt Hamilton at Kurt Ham, Matic looked worse than Rooney playing on left wing. If he's touching the ball in our half, then we are set up wrong.
I don't think so.
I kind of agree. I mean,
worse than Rooney?
Rooney set up the
well, yeah,
Sturridge goal.
maybe I can't agree with that. Glass City at Jeremy Andrew 14. He said, poor selection by Robbo, starting both Mane and Matic out of position on the wings. May we never see the 3 times 100 again.
I think that's unfair. I think this was a game to try something, and we tried something and it didn't work. I know it's frustrating for us all, but at least we got to see what those 3 together look like.
I do think that on their day they will be fantastic, and if they had got an early goal, I think their confidence would have been just soaring through them, and they would have been fantastic. The problem right now, though, is, which we've alluded to earlier in the show, Hurtado's the only one of those 3 that's scoring. So Mane and Matic both have this streak in them where they turn selfish and they don't look up. I said this in one of my preview things for Soccerly, that they need to lose that selfish streak, that they need to look up and see the best pass and not just have head focused on goal. I like a striker to shoot, don't get me wrong, I want that. I'd rather a striker shoot than all the ticky-tacky passing in front of the box and not having a shot. But you have to do it at the right time, and too often more than not, they just have a bit of a selfish streak to them. So that's all about the game. I think we've dragged it out for about 20 minutes longer than we needed to. So we'll turn our attentions now to the Colorado game. Guys, what are you expecting from Saturday? As Zach said, Colorado hasn't been too favourable to us. The weather is horrible just now. In the US Open Cup game between Colorado and Atlanta on Tuesday night, they had to actually evacuate the stadium and get the people out there because of all the storms. There's tornadoes, there's thunder, there's lightning.
They had to evacuate the pitch too because they had sent 7 people off with red cards.
Yeah, that was a fantastic game. If anyone gets the chance, I tweeted this out last night. It was late last night on Tuesday. It's on YouTube. I think you can also still view it through the NASL.com. Get to the 50-minute mark in the stream because they don't have the whole game, and you'll see the tackle that got 3 Atlanta Silverbacks sent off, 1 Colorado Rapid, and 3 coaches. Fantastic entertainment.
Wow.
It was essentially a defender and the equipment manager or something like that, the coaching the team.
But both, like Pablo
Atlanta.
Pablo Mastroeni and Eric Ronaldo both got sent to the
and the assistant was for Atlanta too was gone too.
Yeah,
so they had nobody to coach Atlanta.
Actually,
Ronaldo a hothead.
Anyway, how do you think it's going to go?
Yeah, I think obviously we're up for some squad rotation. So I think we'll see. We might get to see Mitch, as you were saying, play alongside Andy.
I think we might even see Mitch play alongside Leveron. Maybe not now because they kind of need the 3 points, but yeah.
Andy just had a break, right? A really long break. So
yeah, he was back in the UK visiting his mum.
Yeah, but yeah, so I think you could see Mitch with Andy, Beta hopefully back at right back, with Sam Adkube at left back. Okay, maybe.
No, I don't think Sam's ready yet.
I know.
Sam was playing in the scrimmages on Monday, and it was great to see him moving about again. I think if he was good enough to play, he'd probably be down with the 18s though at the playoffs.
I think he might show at the PDL game on Sunday against Seattle at U23, so that might be something that gets him back into the game. Ethan Satis is sounded. I talked to him in the elevator going down, and he says he's close to getting ready to start training again.
No, I was just giving you hard. I said that Sam thing for you guys. Sam is ready to go though. I talked to him before, and he's healthy and ready to be a part of things. So I'm a little surprised he's not with the 18.
Yeah. He will get some minutes, I think, in July because Jordan does need to get a bit of rest. He's played every minute, every game so far, and So I think midfield, that was our key problem tonight. We just had nothing going. So we're going to see Pedro still there, our new captain. I expect to see the 2 Uruguayans either side of him. Mm-hmm. And at the back, I do think it's going to be Tiber and Laba, whether it's because Kofi's suspended or whether it's just going to try and freshen it up a bit. Russell tonight, I mean, he came in, he didn't have much time to do anything, he didn't really do anything, but at least he's fresh.
Yeah. Did you see them saying 4-2-3-1 just because we're on the road and you want that double shield?
Yeah, I think they will. Up front, I mean, I don't think he's going to drop Eric just after the one game. No. I would like to see a little bit more of Omar. It's like you're not going to see much from him just coming on in a couple of minutes.
Yeah, I think Eric's proven, going back to the Columbus away match, that he can put in that away performance and hold the ball up the way honestly I never thought he could.
No, neither.
I thought you were going to say about that you can't hold it up, and I was like, well, should you be comparing yourself to Eric?
No, I can play as a hold up striker. Actually, that's all I do because I can barely run. So
I have to hold up my balls most of the time.
So predictions. I'm going to go with, it's going to be a shocker to everyone, a 2-1 Colorado win.
My head says 2 or 3-1 Colorado. My heart says 1-1 or 2-1 us.
I'd say 1-1 draw.
Wow, I've got a kind of split here. We haven't got Predict to Pooch making his prediction tonight. Predict to Pooch, the original soccer predicting dog, I'd just like to point out. You can follow him on Twitter at Predict to Pooch.
Hey, isn't impersonation the finest form of flattery?
Oh, it is. It's like Obi's the young guy. It's like he's got his looks just now, but the thing is, like, Predict to Pooch is 10 now, and he still has a look. So I mean, Obi's going to lose that. So let him have it while he's young.
For real.
And to finally, quick shout out also to the residency teams in Indiana. Speaking of Colorado weird weather, Indiana is getting some weird weather there too.
Yeah, tornado touchdown 40 minutes away from where they were playing on Tuesday. They were evacuated off the pitch for a couple of hours.
The U16s, yeah. U18s drew their first game, won their second game. They're playing against the top team in the USSDA, the number one seeded team.
Olney or something. Yeah. That'll be over by the time everyone listens to this. It's something like 7 o'clock on Thursday morning. But both the under-16s and the under-18s, if they win their last group game, they're both through to finals week. And that would be fantastic for the programme, fantastic for the guys, and just great publicity for the Whitecaps.
Under a new format too, if the U16s win, they may host one of the games.
We might have a home
depending
match.
on if the USSDA is going to allow them to host. Of course, SFU, because there's a new format, because SFU was supposed to host some games too, but obviously the NCAA found a way not to do that. So we'll see what holds up. But obviously both teams, like I said,
that would be massive.
That would be fantastic.
Obviously on our site as well, we're doing the residency week, so keep an eye on that. We did our top 5 for the U16s. We'll do the top 5 for U18s later on, and we'll discuss it in a later podcast so that we can discuss and comment.
Yeah, and we'll speak to some of the guys as well when they come back from Indiana. So that's all for the Whitecaps part of the show. We're going to turn the rest of the show over to the World Cup. Just a little bit of a quick chat about that, because obviously over the last couple of podcasts you've just heard my thoughts on the World Cup and some of the Whitecaps players. So we'll get the thoughts of Steve and Zach. Before we do that though, I just want to play a bit of fun audio that I got on Monday. It was the day after the USA-Portugal game, Portugal's 95th minute equaliser, and I just had to ask Mr. America, Jordan Harvey, what you thought about the game.
How you feeling after yesterday?
Great. After a day off?
Yeah.
Oh, man.
I thought you had just blocked that out of your memory.
Felt like a loss, didn't it? That was a tough one. Yeah, last second, man. Oh, that was disappointing. Still got a chance, though.
Yeah. How would you have defended
Optimistic.
that? Would you have been better defended?
Oh, come on. Come on. It was a great ball by Ronaldo. Pinpoint, man. It was great. Really entertaining game. Enjoyed watching it. I was screaming a little bit, and that last goal, I don't even think I said anything. It just took the wind out of my sails. So I'm looking forward to the next one.
So we're recording this obviously on Wednesday evening. There's the last set of first round matches to go, and
the big one tomorrow is Germany versus USA.
Versus Germany too. The Germans that are the proper Germans and the Germans that weren't good enough to actually play for Germany.
Essentially.
Yeah.
I don't think that the Germans will be as gracious and as giving tomorrow in tomorrow's game. Well, regardless of the fact that a draw will see them both go through with Germany going on top. I think that there might. I think that they're going to go for the jugular a little bit. I think
so you don't think it's going to be like biscotti time, like everybody's talking about the Italian term for like
No.
Well, see, I just keep. Because I'm old, I keep remembering World Cup '82, Germany, Austria, poor Algeria, never got through because of that. And I remember watching that game as a kid, and I was just, it was almost as boring as this game really tonight at BC Place. Although we did have some shots tonight, I'm not even sure there was a shot in that game.
No,
I mean the Germans aren't known for being giving. and they're not known for making mistakes. I mean, the last mistake I know the Germans made was probably invading Russia in the winter. Thoughts on the first round so far? I put some of this out onto Twitter. What would you say your game of the first round has been?
I think the one I enjoyed the most was probably Chile versus Spain. I'm not a big fan of the tick-attack, and I just love the way Spain went down and basically exited the World Cup. It just felt like good for a team that played direct. Even the Netherlands game against Spain, I just loved watching that too. I know Zach obviously doesn't because he's not a very big Netherlands fan.
No, but I was happy. I was happy for them to beat Spain.
Yeah. So, but I thought just watching Spain lose and just like everybody always talking about them and making them such like a big team and everything like that. It was just good to see them lose, and even some of the big upsets, like watching Costa Rica beat these teams, and it was just very surprising.
Yeah, I mean, Costa Rica has been the
you were happy about them
so far,
about them eliminating England too. I think.
Yes, I mean for me. The celebration of the first round was me when Luis Suarez got that second goal to put England out, but I wasn't sure if I celebrated that as much or when Costa Rica won the next day that officially put them out. It was kind of torn. I was a very happy lad for kind of 48 or 24 hour period.
It's been a pretty amazing World Cup. Obviously from a German perspective, it was great to crush Portugal. I was there last time. We played them in 06, and we beat them 3-1 in the third place game. And every time Cristiano Ronaldo touched the ball, the entire crowd booed. And we played them off the pitch that day. And thanks to Pepe and his poor decision making, we did that again this year. But yeah, there's been great games. Even like it was yesterday. All the days blend together now. But like yesterday, even that night, Nigeria Argentina game.
Oh, that was a good one. Yeah.
Like where Argentina,
that was surprisingly good. Yeah. There's been a few games that when you see them on paper, you're like, because this is going to be.
Those two teams could have easily played to a draw if they wanted to, and they would have advanced them. But they actually played well, like balls out and everything like that, and just went for the game.
Totally. I think for me. Things about this World Cup that have stood out are
sexy girls in the crowd for me. A few things stood out there.
The crowd is a part of it. One is the number of empty seats, which I know has partly been down to transportation issues or whatever. But I've been surprised at how poor the atmosphere is, and I think that's partly FIFA and partly it being on a not in Europe or not having a European host, but the atmosphere of the games that comes through on TV, I know it's probably a lot different in the stadium, is really poor. I
thought it hadn't been too bad.
If you listen to the radio broadcast, which I've had to do a couple times, the ESPN
I've
one,
done that.
And maybe they're pumping up the volume, but the crowd is way too loud in those things. So I don't know if the TV's kind of dulling the sound or something like that, so the broadcaster, it could be something like that we're not getting the full atmosphere through the TV, because maybe the BBC, who obviously CBC is using, is knocking the volume down so their broadcasters can talk, because obviously they're not loud people, the English, right, when they're broadcasting a soccer game, so they will want the
usually just when they're trashing countries.
I don't know how much they have to gain from that. I think you want atmosphere.
Yeah,
and
at least there's no vuvuzelas, because I had to watch so much with the sound down 4 years ago.
No, 4 years ago all our heads were stuck in a beehive. But this year it's like, to use a Tom York phrase, it's like this bunch of refrigerator buzz. It's just like nothing meaningful, hardly any. I mean, some games have had some chanting and stuff like that, and FIFA seems to be so opposed to anyone bringing in the stadium in terms of visual to support that. You have.
Oh yeah, the English band weren't allowed to get their instruments in, which I thought was hilarious.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. The biggest flag I've seen of the game was somehow someone from Sweden had a 4x4 or a 6x6 or something.
From Sweden?
No, not Sweden. Sorry, Switzerland. And I was like,
But that's what happens at the World Cup, and we're going to see it next year here when we host the Women's World Cup. When it's a FIFA event, it's like the Olympics as well. It's so heavily regulated. It's you're limited with what you can do.
That's where you have to wonder. Christian Og tweeted this out. The Colombia fan that was dressed like a pope with Nazi symbols and marijuana things on there. I was like, it's a swastika. It might not have meant Nazi. It could be, obviously swastikas mean other things too. Yeah. But it was like, where did this guy get? Maybe maybe they knew what he was up to, and he was part of a different group. But it was just funny to watch that. What do you guys think of what the most disappointing team to go through so far?
I think go through Greece.
Yeah, I think Greece. Yeah, I think it's clear Greece. I would have loved to see Ivory Coast get through, but they let themselves down in that game.
I concur. I would prefer to have seen the Côte d'Ivoire go through. Michael, why? I saw some of your tweets. I didn't see all of them. Why were you so frustrated with Greece? Did you because you didn't feel it was a penalty, or their style, or only scoring in one match, or?
I find them one of the most boring countries to watch, just in general.
Okay.
The only country I find more boring to watch is Russia, and we're recording it. I mean, Russia could still go through, and that if the two of them played each other, it's like the world would just stop out of boredom. It's like it would just be the end. I just find they're far too defensive. I just hate defensive teams in general. The whole penalty thing, I've had so many discussions with people on Twitter about this. I still don't think it was a penalty. I've seen Samaras play enough in Scotland to know that he goes down so easy at the slightest touch. He did dive at the end of it, or he made the most of it. There is the thing, is like the guy's leg went out.
I don't think his leg went out. I personally think it was incidental contact.
I think Samaras actually swung his leg out. I initially thought he swung it out to make the contact. I'm backing off that a little bit, and I think he was maybe swinging it to take a shot. But I just don't think it was a penalty. And to lose like that in stoppage time is just heartbreaking.
I think there was contact. I'm not saying there wasn't contact, but I don't think it was a foul. It's just my opinion. I think there can be incidental contact in a box without it being a dive and without it being a foul. It's like sometimes people just make contact.
I think it was a penalty, but I think this is the world we live in, right? Where you need to sell to the referee what you feel has happened, or
it's like what is the point though? I mean, this was one of the things I tweeted. What is the point of playing to the rules when other countries don't? And let's go away from that Greek penalty, but it's like the whole Suarez thing. And this was another discussion I had. He was saying Uruguay didn't cheat. Suarez did, but Uruguay didn't. And it's like, yeah, but if Suarez had been sent off, it would have disrupted the play. And I know it's a case then of what ifs, and you're going down all that route. But I just don't think Uruguay would then have scored that goal. It'd be 10v10. The whole play would have been disrupted. That move would not have happened. Yes, they may have still got a goal, but we'll never know. But I think that basically given that decision, got Uruguay through. And we've seen it before with Uruguay when Suarez handled on the line, stopped a penalty, went to a shootout then, and they got through. That if you cheat, that's the message that I take from these games. If you cheat, you're going to prosper.
Okay, so I wrote a blog about this for the 2010 World Cup, and the people I wrote the blog for, they don't have it anymore, and I don't have a hard copy of this, but
you should write it again for AFTN.
I should write it again, totally. No, what this is, part of what this is we have a clash of cultures. That's what this comes down to. And football has been influenced by certain cultures more so than others for a variety of reasons. What it comes down to is in countries like Uruguay and South America, I don't know which countries it would be exclusive to, or if it's all of them, so I don't want to say, oh, this is all countries in South America, and maybe Central America. You are considered to be clever if you can con the referee, and it's a positive thing. So if you can con the referee, you are considered to be like, that's a good thing.
Yeah.
So it's accepted.
So with Fernandez, with that whole
totally, yeah. And it's a positive thing. No one looks down, and if you get caught, yeah, it's not great, but no one looks down on you in that way, because that's part of the culture. So you have. Because football is such a world game where you have these things that are part of life that influence the game. So you have this from the South Americans, and over the years it has not been stamped out by FIFA or stamped out by North American, where we're like, no, you got to do things honest and you got to do things right and whatever. They haven't done anything, or they haven't done enough to stamp out of the game, and so it has taken hold in the world game all over the world, and now it is a part of the game. The embellishment, the making sure the ref sees it, and part of it is the fact of it's a sporting event and you want your team to win and all that kind of stuff, and you'll do everything you can, and you want to make sure the referee knows you got touched or whatever and all that kind of stuff. But that's where, to me, that's what I believe. It's come from.
You're right. It's a clash of culture.
And so it's kind of it can be. I'm not saying you are, but it can be ethnocentric of someone to say, I disagree with this culture. So, I remember years ago, Paul Stelteri in a Gold Cup, when he was playing as a striker, which is funny in and of itself, got through against Cuba or something. He got taken down, but he got up again and was able to get the shot off, right? Had that been maybe his opponent from Cuba, or again, someone from, let's say, Uruguay or Argentina, had they been taken down, there's no way they would have got up. They would have just said, "Ref, I've been fouled." They would have done everything to make sure the ref know that they got taken down and won the penalty. Paul Stelteri got up, got the shot, it got stopped, or whatever, game gets on. And in Canada, we're like, wow, Paul Stelteri's awesome. He did his best. He worked hard. Guy took him down. He got up and got the shot off.
I come from a culture and a time that if you did that in a game, someone would come and punch your puss. But yeah, it's like it just would not be tolerated. And Carl Robinson's a little bit from that culture as well, which is why he came down so hard on Seba after what happened down in Portland. It is an aspect of the modern game. I'm a bit of a hypocrite because if my side won a vital game or won a cup, or Scotland got through to the World Cup or won a big game in the World Cup because of a dive, I would be making excuses for them. Not sure I could make an excuse for somebody, one of my players, that showed cannibalism, but I would probably still try.
Yeah, so that's why it's good.
So we are all hypocrites. It's like when you're watching as a neutral, it's like, oh, it's the worst thing ever. But when it's your player,
you want your team to win.
Yeah, I mean, look how much Camilo dived.
Yeah.
And we were like, oh.
And again, I don't know if, I wouldn't say wholeheartedly, but I think that's probably again part of Brazilian football culture is you're considered clever to be ref. Some Brazilian can correct me on that if they want, but I know in Argentina for sure it is. Uruguay, I believe it's the same. That's a part of the way it works. And for us, we look at it with disgrace, and we are so offended by it. But that's how it is.
It'd be interesting actually to get some of our South American guys, if they wanted to talk about that. They might not want to because it is obviously a very sensitive subject that folk don't like talking about. Now, we're talking about Canada there and Paul Stelteri and everything like that. Canada obviously not at this World Cup, Quel Surprise. They got beat 8-1 by Honduras. Honduras have been woeful. How bad would Canada have been if we got there?
No, I mean...
Ironically, Honduras was outscored in this World Cup 8-1 as well.
I know, I thought that was a nice fact. Someone tweeted that out this morning. It's like, nice.
No, I mean... that game was woeful and is a watermark in Canadian football, for how bad things are at this time or how far we maybe are. I think it's hard to take that 8-1 and apply it to everything going forward, kind of thing. You have to say, okay, we lost bad, and it looks like the players on the pitch that day gave up a bit, and that's why we got smashed so bad. Ultimately, if we got a result against Honduras at home, that game would have been meaningless.
Yeah.
And in the first game in Honduras, we're playing France. There was so much hate on my Twitter timeline from Canadians towards Honduras. And I pointed out during it, why don't you turn your hate to the right people? Honduras won that 8-1 game fair and square. They were the better team by a country mile. Turn your attention to the powers that be in Canada and ask the difficult questions. Why are we getting beat 8-1 by a team that goes to the World Cup and gets trounced?
No.
Why are we getting beat 8-1 by a team that's one of the dirtiest teams you're going to see? Why are we getting beat 8-1 by a third world country? Let's just put that out there.
I'm not even going to say the powers that be. I'm going to say ask those questions to the players that were on the pitch and then they show up.
Yeah, but they're done, right? But
it's
done.
It's systematic. It's so deep rooted in Canadian football, and it's not going to change. Steve and me were talking about this on the phone the other day about when we think we might possibly see Canada back in the World Cup. And Steve, you made a really good point in that.
I think it's going to be 10 years easily. I think they need to have a deeper pool. It's not enough players right now to even people to compete for the spots. I think even there is a chance in the 2022 if USA gets the automatic bid, if they get the bid and everything like that from Qatar, and they get the automatic one. And there's also chances, obviously, if CONCACAF gets an extra spot because they've done so well, there's a potential that 3 out of the 4 teams could go to the next round, which is more than better percentage than is going to be UEFA, better percentage than Asia, better percentage than Africa. So there's always that chances, but honestly, if everything stays the same, 10 years, I think you're looking at before you competing to go to the World Cup. And we have to be patient because all these screw-ups that have gone on has happened in the past 10 years. They're not happening now. They're happening in the past 10 years. And we're right now is what we're reaping from the mess up in the last 10 years. We have to, it's being corrected, it seems like, at this point, based on the youth national teams and everything. And hopefully, within 10 years, we can compete for a World Cup success.
I think you're right in terms of we've reaped what we've sown, but I think that there are people in the game now who are trying to they're giving their all.
No, that's what I'm saying. I'm saying the people that are working on it now, it's getting better. So within 10 years, all this stuff is happening now. It's because of the last 10 years.
So when you look at what happened, and obviously I'm biased in this, but when you look at what happened when Germany got awarded the 2006 World Cup in the year 2000. They came together and said, "Look, we can't keep going the way we're going. We've been shocking. The Euro 2000 performance was just horrendous." They came together and said, "The Deutsche Fußballbund, the German Football Federation, came together with, I believe it was the DFL, like the Bundesliga, and the clubs, and said we need to do this together." And that's what they did. And they invested money in player development. They made it a high priority to develop German players. And it has paid off. So, ever at 2006, you could even say, and for virtually a decade after. And so, this is what we need to do. And these conversations, from what I understand, are happening with the stakeholders in the game, including the Impact, TFC, and ourselves. So
I still just don't think we have the right people at the top in the right positions in the game. One of them being Benito Floro. I just don't think he's the right manager for Canada. But that's a discussion for another time. Let's get back to the World Cup. What player would you say? Obviously, someone may steal the show on Thursday in the 4 games. But as of this minute, what player? I was going to say players, but what player would you say is the player of the first round?
Oh, as painful as for me to say, can you really say anyone other than Leo Messi?
Well, I'm going to say somebody different. I'm going to say, and I don't know if he's the best player, but he's the one that excited me the most.
James Rodriguez?
Yes, from Colombia. Yeah. I knew a little bit of him because there was rumors that he might come to the EPL. He was mentioned that he might be transferring over, and I've obviously, when I was playing FIFA, I'd always bring him on the team and play with him. But I had no idea he was this good, and I thought Colombia was going to be a good team. I thought when they ruled out Falcao out of the team, I thought maybe it's not going to happen. They might win the group, but that's about it. But Rodriguez has just gone different level, and he's actually made this team much better. Who knows how far they could go if they did have Falcao. It would be amazing. I think the Colombia team's really strong.
I like that James Rodriguez guy that plays for Colombia. He was going to be the guy that I went for. Good old James.
Okay, but he's been influential, and he's gotten his team to the top of the group and through to the next round. But you cannot say that anyone's been more significant to their side than Leo Messi. Can you really?
I was actually going to go with James.
Okay, but I mean, he maybe hasn't dominated matches in the way.
Well, I think Messi's been phenomenal.
Okay,
it's just maybe I'm not saying the best, like it is not the best player, but the guy that just captured attention and everything like that. Because everybody knew Messi was going to be like that to a certain extent. Oh. I know he struggled with the national team, but to a certain extent, he was going to be that level at one point.
But he has the same number of goals as Neymar. No love for Neymar. Not for me. I can't stand the guy.
Why don't you like him, Michael?
There was an incident a couple of years ago between Scotland played Brazil in a friendly.
Of course.
Neymar accused the Tartan Army of racist chants. It was investigated and it was clear there was no such thing. He never apologised. He went on a big rant about it after the game because he'd been getting booed constantly, and then he was in the Brazilian press talking about it. It was proven that nothing happened and he never ever apologised. And it's like the whole Sidney Leroux thing with Canada. Accuses the Canadian fans of racist chants. Never happened. No proof of it. Never apologised for making that comment.
Well,
also,
Sidney Leroux, I'm not surprised by, but yeah, that's unfortunate. Well,
I think we probably do have to give it to Messi because the goals that he's got have won his team the games.
Yes.
Like that goal against Iran, clutch, fantastic performance. So much pressure on him as well because everyone's expected him to come and fail again and flop, and he's kind of like just put his middle fingers up to them and said, "Hey, screw you guys."
3 matches, 4 goals, 3 game-winning goals.
Yeah.
So well, actually, no, he didn't get the game-winning goal against Nigeria.
It'd be between Leo and James.
Yeah. The one player that I thought I didn't get to watch the third game, but for France, I thought that short guy, I can't remember his name.
Matthew Bueno.
That's it. I really liked the way
I loved him in that first game. He was really good.
And he would work with that 5'2" chant as well, because he is 5'2", I think.
Yeah.
Really.
We don't know if his eyes are blue though.
He's been quality.
I thought he was really good the first 2 games. I never got to watch the third game because I figured it was going to suck anyway. So I just
that was right. This was one of the other questions. Everyone's talked the USA's Group G, group of death. Do you agree that has been the group of death in this tournament?
No, definitely not.
Why do you say no, Steve?
I just feel like the...
But what would you say has been then?
I think the Dutch one, the Group B. I think Chile, I think Spain and Netherlands, and I think Australia surprised too. I thought they played really well for what they were.
I remember reading an article in Sockley that a guy had written, and it was like when they do this thing, 3 hopes, 1 fear, and the big fear was that Australia were going to get hammered in every game, and they haven't. They really held their own.
And I know England's obviously not as good as people say anymore, but if you look at I know, but if you look at the 3 that group, right, 3 former World Cup champions, and 2 of them are out. And Costa Rica wins the group.
Well, Costa Rica beat Italy
and Uruguay.
But they held their own at least, beat twice and drew with 1. 3 of the top 10 teams in the world with a crappy coefficient thing.
Yeah.
Because the reason I mentioned this after I was talking about the France group is, for me, that group, Group E, is the group of dearth. That group, like, it just bored me so much.
Except for France when they played, because they're scoring goals on everybody.
I just don't like the French.
I know you don't like the French, but they actually played really nice.
I like the Swiss a lot, partly because they have Ottmar Hitzfeld. And
I don't like the Swiss either.
He's an amazing
the reason
coach.
I don't like the Swiss, this is like
a 2-hour podcast.
This is like an old man in a cardigan ranting xenophobic things. But anyway, the reason I don't like the Swiss, World Cup '94.
You were there.
I was in Detroit. It was USA versus Switzerland. Our tickets were in the Swiss end because we're all UEFA tickets.
Reggie.
And the Swiss fans saw that we were 4 Scots and they threw popcorn at us. And ever since then, I have hated the Swiss.
And the lesson of this podcast is do not cross Michael or his people.
What other countries do I hate? Let me go through these. Right. Let me see what countries are in here. Like Japan and Korea. Not a big fan of Asian football. I know lots of folk think that it's like really exciting. I don't know, it's just something about them. It irritates me watching them play. I don't know why. They're fans as well. That's another thing.
What?
Oh, they irritate me.
Japan has had the best supporters at the entire World Cup.
Korean fans. They're on their way out the World Cup. There they are, camera turns to them, they're all like, hey, look at us, we're here from Korea, smiling and joking. You weigh that up with how the Spanish fans felt when they knew they were going out the World Cup. That's the difference between a proper footballing nation and these little countries that play at it.
But Japan are the only supporters who actually decided to do any kind of tifo, so I have a lot of respect for what
they can be a blast sometimes in Japan. Now, the African countries...
You like anyone with a star on their flag, right?
I'm not a big fan of watching the African football. I love their jerseys. I always think that they're really good. I do kind of think that after watching a lot of those kind of Puma jerseys, I may have ordered a size too small. I don't think I've got quite the build that's going to fit my Cameroon jersey. But the African teams, Algeria aside, and maybe Nigeria a little bit, I think they've been really disappointing. And I think they could lose a spot.
I don't think they'll lose a spot. The African teams in general...
No, Cameroon was the only one really disappointing, I thought.
No, but I think maybe in general, I think one of the things is I think they've been tactically found out. I think they have not.
It's like they've gone back because, like, when you watched African teams in the 70s when they qualified,
They were exciting.
Yeah.
Like, they weren't in the 70s.
Athletic.
Sorry, I'm talking about later.
Yeah, they were clueless.
Yeah.
And you've got the famous game that I love, 1974, Zaire versus Brazil. When the Zaire player, there's a free kick, he just runs out the wall and kicks the ball away. And, like, to me, that was what my image of African football was like. It was like undisciplined, they didn't have the skill, they didn't have the tactics. And then they came onto the scene. 1982 World Cup was probably the first one where the African teams really started to excite, dipped a bit in 86 and then really came into it in the 90s.
Yeah, 90s is when I
94, 98, great African nations. They seem to have gone back, whereas the rest of the world, the rest of the smaller countries like CONCACAF have gone forward. Africa, I don't know what's happening down there.
I think they've gone too tactical, basically. Maybe they've gone too tactical. Maybe they've gone too tactical. Maybe they're trying to be too tactical and it's messing up with their other stuff in the game.
Have you been watching? Some of them.
I don't know. I'm just clutching at straws right now. I have no idea what's going on.
They've lacked shape and they've lacked like a tactical approach.
I think they're trying to be it, but they're not succeeding at all.
I feel they do deserve to lose a spot. I don't think they should have 5.
South Americans. It's kind of sad Ecuador's going out. Although I want.
I got an issue with your boss, the MLS website. I don't know what is up with them, but they just constantly. You beaten Ghana. You drew a really depleted Portugal side, and all of a sudden you're claiming you guys are top 10 material.
Well,
like
what I find interesting, like listening to a lot of the English phone-ins, there's so many English fans going on these phone-ins going, we should play more like America, we should look at getting Jurgen Klinsmann as our manager. And it's like a couple of years ago the American game was just poo-pooed, MLS is poo-pooed for being weak, everything like that. And now these guys are like, we should take a leaf out of America's book. That's one hell of a turnaround.
Yeah. On a serious note, I did think all 6 South American teams were going to go through. I think
Ecuador got screwed over a little.
It was right. We'll wrap this up because folk are probably at home going, okay, the next round's going to start at this rate. That sending off of Valencia today for Ecuador, do you think it was a sending off? I don't think it was a sending off in a million years.
I was listening to it on the radio on the drive in here. That's one where he rolled over the ball and it went into the guy's leg. Yeah, I thought it was a bit harsh. I thought Marquisio's was also very harsh against Costa Rica. I think in the Premier League and the Bundesliga, I don't think that's a red card.
Who was it that was doing the funky dancing? Was that Ecuador or Colombia?
Colombian celebrations have been awesome.
Colombia salsa.
It's a strange one for me as well because it seems that the South American countries are all kind of clubbing together and it's like they're cheering each other on. And that's something that wouldn't happen in Europe, I don't think.
Saturday's going to be really good for them because they got like 4 teams four teams in 2 games playing, and it's going to be enjoyable to watch.
So I think we'll wrap up now because they seem to have a tractor on the pitch. I think we might have moved to Norwich or Ipswich. I'm not sure what's going on. So thanks for listening to this mishmash of stuff, Whitecaps, World Cup things. Just quick round the table if everyone can let everyone know if they can hear us over the noise where they can find you online. So Zach.
Zachary AM or at Zachary AM on Twitter, and the movement that I'm a part of is Curva Collective, at Curva Collective.
Steve.
At Whitecaps Beat on Twitter, and check out Residency Week on AFTN. That's here.
And I'm Michael McCall. You can follow me on Twitter at AFTN Canada. You can read all our stuff, AFTN on Canadian Soccer News, aftn.ca, canadiansoccernews.com. I'm also the beat writer for the Whitecaps for MLSsoccer.com, and you can read my Whitecaps coverage on soccerly.com. I don't have a movement, but I'm hoping to have an Indian at the weekend, so I might have one then. Whitecaps back in action, MLS is back. Hooray! We've missed this excitement. Hopefully it maybe kicks up a gear in the All-Western Clash on Saturday. We'll maybe bring you a podcast next week after that. Some Whitecaps PDL games coming up on Sunday and Tuesday, so try and get out to one of those. Canada Day on Tuesday. Support your Canadian boys for the Whitecaps under 23. Good luck to the residency as well. Might be over by the time that they hear this, but good luck to them. Hope they both get into the finals week. So thanks for listening, everyone. Until next time, take care, mon the Caps, and let's just hope for a good second round of the World Cup and a lengthy ban for Luis Suarez. Night, everyone.
One day I shall come back. Yes, I shall come back. Until then, There must be no regrets, no tears, no anxieties. Just go forward in all your beliefs and prove to me that I am not mistaken in mine.